Hello there, and welcome to episode 17 of Kolonization Project. Right now we are unlocking a few tech nodes before moving on to the first launch of this episode. We're unlocking some new probe cores, new nuclear engines, and some techs that will allow us to build things in orbit or on surfaces of other planets, which will be cool, but we're not going to be doing that in this episode. Right now, however, we are launching the Munar Gateway. And this is going to be launched on top of a Leviathan booster, as you can probably see. And if you don't know, it's going to be a station that's going to orbit the Mun. We're not taking it to the Mun in this episode because we have other things to do. But we're just going to put it into a parking orbit first, forget about it for a while, send the Endurance up to get the crew from it, go do something else, and then return to it, send it off to the Mun. But that won't be in this episode, that will be in a future episode. But right now, you can see we have gotten into orbit. We can inflate that centrifuge ring, which is why we needed a Kerbal on board. Apparently, only engineers can inflate habitation rings. Apparently a computer can't do it, which is kind of strange, but oh well. But now we are reusing the booster because we don't want to not reuse it, because these boosters are quite expensive. We are going for a drone ship landing this time because I decided why not. They're a bit more efficient than RTLS landings, and you know, it's kind of cool seeing a booster hit a drone ship in the middle of nowhere. But you can see we did overshoot it a bit, so we fly it like a plane, or a brick with wings is more like what it is. And we can land it, not very softly. One of the landing legs broke and we're literally on the edge of the drone ship. The second landing leg broke, we lose a third one, and then the booster tips over. Thankfully, the engines and the booster survived, so we can reuse this booster, but we're going to have to work on improving our landing techniques. But the second stage, if you don't know, the second stage is also reusable, so we got to reuse this. However, we were taking a very steep re-entry course, and those engines, they don't have a heat shield protecting them. We don't have, and I didn't want to do a re-entry burn, and we just keep on. Actually, I did want to do a re-entry burn, but we didn't have it. We ran out of electric charge, so we couldn't control the booster, and that meant we couldn't slow down enough, and the booster ended up burning up in the atmosphere, which caused it to crash into the ocean, so we lost the booster. So far, we actually haven't had a 100% successful recovery of a Leviathan booster. That's kind of strange. But now we are launching the Endurance, and you can see it does have a few improvements. We have replaced the two Panther engines with one of these fancy new Whiplash engines, and the Whiplash is actually based off of the... I'm not sure what it's actually based off of. I'm not sure what the engine is called, but it's the engine that powers the Lockheed Blackbird, which is it's a pretty cool plane. But we don't have a plane as massive as that. We only need one engine in order to get us up to speed. We actually sort of need two. It would be good to have like 1.5 of these engines, because this thing can't break the sound. This plane can't break the sound barrier with it being fully fueled. So we actually have to jettison a lot of the fuel overboard in order for us to actually get up to speed and start getting into orbit. Another thing you may notice, you just saw them fire up there. We actually have two nuclear engines on board. I think I'm addicted to nuclear engines because I've started just putting nuclear engines on literally everything. We've put them on the space shuttle. We've put them on our nuclear tug. We've put them now on the Endurance, and I have another SSTO in the works that has nuclear engines on it. So I might be addicted to them, I'm not sure, but oh well, nuclear engines are cool. They have that cool exhaust. They're also very efficient, which is the main reason we use them. But they're kind of expensive, which is why I only put them on reusable spacecraft, like the Space Shuttle, or our nuclear tug, or the Endurance. There are also a few smaller improvements to it. It has, instead of using those subsonic intakes, we unlocked supersonic intakes, which allows us to feed more air into the jet engines. Although I'm not sure if we need it because we only have one, but oh well, I'm assuming they're more heat resistant. But I haven't actually told you the goal of this mission. We're not taking this anywhere special. It probably has enough Delta V to go to Minimus and back, but we're not taking it there. We are taking it to the Munar Gateway, and we are going to be retrieving our engineer on board the Munar Gateway and we're going to be bringing them home. And that's basically all this mission is. That's basically all the Endurance is really made for. It's made for retrieving crew and science from places. It's not really made for carrying cargo. In fact, it doesn't even have a cargo bay, so it actually can't carry any cargo. But it can carry crew, and that's what we're using it for. Oh, another small improvement is that we are actually using a inline docking port. We aren't using the robotic hinge docking port. I'm not sure if this saves on mass or not, but it decreases the part count, which decreases the complexity, which is good. But you can see we have rendezvoused with the space station, and we can now start our docking procedure. Fairly standard, although I have started not using the control from here from the docking port because I feel that makes it a bit harder to dock. I sort of like doing it this way better, with just pointing the station prograde and then pointing the station pointing the spaceship up. I think that's a better way to do it now. It just makes it easier for me at least. But we have retrieved a crew member. Apparently, Unmanned Kerman was our engineer on board. And you can also hear, maybe you can hear my dogs barking. Sorry about that. Valentina Kerman piloted the Endurance up, and then Unmanned Kerman was our engineer on board the Munar Gateway, who we needed to inflate the habitation ring. You can also see me firing the Nervas for a second there. That's because we ran out of electric charge. Thankfully, however, it's not like that space shuttle mission. I believe it was the first flight of Explorer that we went into a flat spin. Thankfully, that didn't happen. I'm not sure why it didn't happen. But, oh wait, no, actually it did happen. It did happen this time. Thankfully, though, we once again try and point the nose downwards. That seems to fix it. I'm not very good expert in planes, so I think that fixed it. It could have also been like the air was getting thicker. But we overshot the Space Center a little bit, but thankfully that's what we have that jet engine for. Actually, it's not the only purpose of that jet engine. It has many purposes. It's mostly for just getting us into orbit, but it can also be used to return to the Space Center, which is what we're using it for right now. But we have come up on the Space Center and we can land. Our next launch, I believe, is a very exciting one. This is the thing that I said was going to be very exciting in the last episode. So we have a killer asteroid heading towards Kerbin. It's the Class E asteroid, so it's the biggest asteroid in the game, and it's on a collision course with Kerbin. We can't have that. So we are launching this, which is our biggest rocket to date. It can carry about like 70 tons into low Kerbin orbit, probably even more. Our payload weighs like 70 tons, and we still have a lot of fuel left over. So it can carry a lot of payload into orbit. And it's almost twice the payload capacity of the Leviathan booster. And we needed it because this payload is quite heavy. So what this payload is it's called the Atlas Asteroid Redirector. And its goal is to redirect asteroids. If you didn't get the name. That's what the spacecraft is. You can see it right now. And yeah. Now back to the rocket. It's going to be called the Titan because I'm not sure why I just decided to do it because, Leviathan, Titan, I don't know. It just sounded right because it was a big rocket. And it's also very, very much like the Leviathan. It's reusable. The first stage, which we are recovering now, is reused like a normal reusable rocket would. The entire rocket is 5 meters in diameter, and the first stage kind of looks like a cursed Saturn V. It's a bit larger than the Saturn V, and it instead of using F1 engines, it uses these Methalox engines. So it's kind of a cursed combination of, I guess, Starship and the Saturn V. It's not using Raptor engines, though. It sort of looks like the RS-25, the space shuttle engine, but it's running on Methalox. So it's kind of strange, but it works. You just saw we landed it. And now we can recover the second stage. Thankfully, we are able to we have electric charge, so we can do a re-entry burn, and we are trying to land it now, like a second stage. But however, we come up crashing into the ocean, so not another happy landing. It's, however, we don't have to reuse it. The second stage uses, I believe, 7, maybe 9 skipper engines, so it's quite a powerful second stage. And then the third stage uses 4, like, I'm not sure what they actually are, but they're like a very efficient Hydrolox engine. And the third stage is partially reusable. The engine is reusable, but the tank is not. But the engine is the expensive part, so it doesn't really matter. But you can see we have gotten into orbit. We have landed the boosters, and we can try and head off to the asteroid. The asteroid is actually in a very inclined orbit around Kerbin, so that's why I used MechJeb's ascent guidance. I don't really like using MechJeb because I like doing things manually, and I don't think I've ever used MechJeb once in this series before. I mean, I use the Smart ACS. I use that because it's a much better system than the stock SAS, and I just like it a lot more, and I don't think it makes the game autonomous, so to speak. I mean, I do like using MechJeb in certain situations, like this situation right here when we have to go into an inclined orbit. I do not know how to do inclined orbits. I know how to rendezvous with the station around like the Mun and an inclined orbit, but getting it into a perfect, almost perfect inclined orbit around Kerbin efficiently, I'm not good at that. But we're plotting out our maneuvers to get us out to the asteroid, and we will arrive there with time to spare. The asteroid, we launched the spacecraft as soon as we hit the asteroid hit Kerbin's sphere of influence. So we had as much time as possible to go and grab the asteroid. We were a bit early though, but it's better to be early than to have the asteroid and the spacecraft crash into Kerbin. Probably even more bad because this thing doesn't really have a means of getting back to Kerbin. It does have 2 parachutes, but that was because I planned on this being a 2-crew mission before, and it would have a heat shield in case something went wrong, and I just forgot to remove the parachutes. But then I was like, you know what, let's bring the original 4 along and have it be a mission, and then just send like the Endurance up to go get them. That was I cannot speak today. That plan was what it was supposed to be, and that's what happened. As you can see, we brought all 4 original crew members along: Jebediah, Bill, Bob, and Valentina aboard. We brought them all along because, they're the original 4. We might as well send them up to go save Kerbin. I mean, nothing really happens in Kerbal Space Program if an asteroid hits Kerbin, but we have a contract that pays like $1 million funds to go put a Class E asteroid around Minimus. So that's where we're going to be taking it after we do a couple other things, because as you will see, we didn't use the right drills. The drills do work. The drills work perfectly fine. However, the drills aren't powerful enough to mine enough ore to run the engines at peak efficiency. Peak efficiency would be we mine the ore, convert it into liquid fuel as fast as the Nervas are using it, probably even faster. That doesn't happen here. The drills are too small. Our ISRU is too small, and we're gonna have to set up another module to go and use liquid fuel. But you can see we have docked to the asteroid. We can get I believe Bob out to go collect a sample from the asteroid, and we don't name it in this episode, but I do name it off the screen. It's going to be called Singularity. The asteroid, of course, the asteroid redirector is called Atlas. I called the asteroid redirector Atlas because I'm sort of going for a naming theme with all of these. Our space telescope which discovered this is called Traveler, because the telescope is called what the telescope is based off in real life is called Sentinel and Sentinel Traveler, No Man's Sky. I'm trying to name everything like things after No Man's Sky, and the Atlas is something in No Man's Sky, so I was just like, let's name it that, because naming themes. But the asteroid isn't named after really anything. I just decided to call it Singularity because the singularity in a black hole destroys things. This asteroid was going to destroy Kerbin. Well, mentally speaking, it wouldn't really destroy Kerbin. I want an excuse to do this mission. I don't really care if an asteroid hits Kerbin. I just want an excuse to do an asteroid redirect mission, because It's cool. But you can see we have not made it on a collision course anymore, and we can now get it into an orbit, because it was at this point that I realized we wouldn't be able to get it to Minmus with only the Asteroid Redirector. But we can get it into a highly elliptical orbit. It does have I overbuilt the supplies and life support on this spacecraft, so they have more than enough life support to go around the orbit one more time. And once they hit like periapsis, they can set up a starship to go and get them, which is what we might be doing in the next episode or the episode after that. But now we are not launching anything right now. We are returning to the Phobos Duna Orbiter. It has arrived at Duna, and it's the last of our Duna fleet, so to say. And it will arrive in a polar orbit of Duna, and it will start scanning the surface for things, I believe. And it is going to scan like resources and biomes and stuff. But that's about all the rest of the episode is going to be. We're also going to be collecting science from space around Duna and transmitting it back, but we will do things with that science in the next episode, I guess. But now we're just orbiting around Duna, collecting gravity scans from every biome, and starting up the scanners. The scanners this thing will be in orbit for the rest of its operational life, which is forever. Not really much point at deorbiting it. And yeah, that's about it. But that will be the end of this episode. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.